everybody, welcome to Effortless. This is your host, Spigel. With me is Piddle.
Howdy doody.
We're so enthusiastic today because I don't know, really. I don't know. But we are enthusiastic, or at least I am.
Yes.
How's it going over there? How you doing?
Not bad. Not bad.
So this is your everyday neighborhood schoolyard talking show on the ZBN, and we're very excited to bring you today's episode.
Yep, we just played a game of tag, followed by a little LARPing.
I played hide and go seek, and nobody came and found me, and I stayed out there for hours.
Yeah,
and they called the police.
And then what about our LARPing? We LARPed first.
What is LARPing? What is that? I don't know what that is.
Live action role playing.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Don't you remember?
No, we never did that.
I was the Silver Surfer, and I was unstoppable, and you were Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks. I don't know.
Did you know that they're making another Chipmunks movie? I just found out about this the other day.
They never stop.
What a disaster. Who's going to see these movies? We need to find them and stop them somehow, because I'm tired of seeing these commercials before my awesome movies that I go watch, which I just, incidentally, we just went and saw Inside Out the other day. Have you seen that yet?
I have not, but I'm going to.
Are you a Pixar guy?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. You have to see Inside Out.
It's going to make me cry, probably.
It instantly vaulted to the top of my wife's list of Pixar movies, and it's number 2 for me, right after Toy Story 3. So
Toy Story 3, oh man, that made me cry.
That movie was like, they just kept punching you in the feels again and again, and it was like, please stop by the end. It was so much.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we played games this week. I think I played a couple games.
I played a couple games too. Didn't beat anything, unfortunately, but I made progress.
Falling behind, my friend. This is by the time everyone listens to this, it's going to be the start of week 14.
Yeah.
So
I think I've only beaten 8 games now.
You can catch up. You can do it. I have faith in you. I'm totally on pace still, although I had to use the entirety of my day off to play The Sims yesterday, which is my first replay of the year. So I decided to throw a replay in there because I've been playing entirely new games, wanted to go back to an old one.
The good news is, in less than 2 weeks, my time will open up significantly. So
that's awesome.
So once that happens, I'm going to try to rock out a few games. I'm going to try to play a little catch-up.
Hardcore. You can do it, dude. I know you can. You have more gaming prowess than even I. So,
yeah.
By the way, you know how I did that video game collection video a couple days ago?
Yes.
I would like to see one from you, honestly. And we hadn't discussed this, but I'd like to see your entire collection, because
my collection is largely digital now. I'm a little disappointed in myself. I got rid of a lot of my cartridges once the Wii came around, because most of my collection was like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. I had a lot of those games. And as soon as the Wii came around and the Virtual Console came around, I was just like, I don't really need to keep all these cartridges and go through the hassle.
It's a logical progression. I mean, a lot of people your age, like Nick, his collection, he has 10 physical games, if I remember correctly. He gets everything digital. Yeah. And I'm like, I kind of wish I could go back in time and do that instead of having all these things just lying around. But it's too late now, and I can't. I couldn't just sell everything, because I would want to get my money's worth for it.
Part of me is disappointed that I did it, especially because it's not like I got that much money back for them. But on the other hand, it's just easier. And yeah, there were some games where I made a pretty penny selling it. Like, I had a Black Label Final Fantasy VII copy, and I sold it before the digital release came out, so I got a pretty good chunk of change.
Did you have the hollow version of Majora's Mask?
Yes, I did. The collector's version.
I want that so bad. I only have the gold one.
So,
man.
Yeah, all of the cartridges were gold for that one, but
No, they have a regular one, don't they?
No. All of them are gold carts. It's just that the collector's edition had the hollow.
Yeah, I gotta get the hollow. I remember they also had a pre-order bonus where you could get a gold controller if you pre-ordered it from Toys R Us, and I had like little Triforce on the. I wish I had that too. I love Majora's Mask so much. I just want to like have a Majora's Mask collection of just Majora's Mask related stuff. But anyway, let's talk about the games we played before we get into our main topic, which is still not bucket list this week, guys. We're still working on it.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody.
We're gonna build up the hype on that one.
Yeah, it's gonna be an awesome episode. But I'll go ahead and go first because I played 2 and you played 1.
I beat 1 and I played 1. Actually,
you did beat 1.
Yes.
What? I thought you said you didn't beat anything this week.
It's been 2 weeks.
Has it?
So yeah,
I don't know.
And
I have no idea.
I did not review Civilization 5.
Okay.
Because I had not beaten it yet, but I've beaten it now.
But I'll go first anyway because I already started talking about mine.
Yep,
so
go for it.
I played The Sims yesterday, which is a game I actually had not played since I first got my PS2 all the way back in 2003 for Christmas. I got The Sims as a Christmas present, so I popped it in that day. I played a bunch of it. I played it on and off like for a year probably, and then I did not play it again for probably about 11 years until yesterday. And I will say that I don't think it held up quite as well as I thought it was going to, probably just because the controls felt a little clunky on PS2. I'm sure if I was playing it on PC, it would have been better. But overall, still a very good game, still incredibly entertaining. If you've never played a Sims game, go back and play the original ones like Sims 2. The newest ones aren't very good, and the My Sims games aren't worth anybody's time. So
I actually really enjoyed The Sims 3.
I heard it was okay, but I never played it myself.
The Sims 4, they've really started to, I don't know.
Well, Sims 4, they suffered from EA syndrome where they had a good game before and then they took out everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But the original Sims is very pure. It's very it feels like very much like a beta version of like what the Sims 2 ended up being, which is to say that it's actually got a pretty good story mode called Get a Life, where you kind of you take your sim through like all the different houses in the neighborhood, and somehow you end up living with everybody. So you're kind of like a deadbeat, but you eventually just start making like a lot of money, and you move in with people and you marry them and all this stuff, and it eventually get the big mansion at the end, and it's really rewarding. And it's very, the thing about The Sims is if it can tend to get kind of at points it feels trivial, like a lot of the stuff you're doing, because you just have to keep going to the bathroom and you have to keep taking a shower or whatever, and it can get a little irritating. So I don't recommend playing it in long bursts like I did yesterday, because I think that affected how I felt about the game, because I'm just like, I gotta go to the bathroom again. Like I wish I had like a cheat code so I didn't have to do that.
Yeah,
anyway,
I swear every sim has bladder problems.
Yeah, they really do. I don't go to the bathroom as much as they do. And even if I did, I don't take 30 minutes to do it. So,
yes.
So did you
I know
ever
where,
play,
you know,
did you
the
ever
big
play
thing
this
is,
game on console? Sorry.
The big thing is why is there not an option to go to the bathroom in the shower in The Sims? I mean, come on.
Yeah. What
Just
the
make
heck?
everything easier.
This is something that everybody does. Every sane person. And, you know.
At least we do.
I might have just revealed a little too much there, but oh well.
That's all right.
So, did you ever play The Sims on console, or did you ever play it on PC, or what was your main?
I only played it on PC.
Okay, so
it was actually a little. I guess it was the first game I ever pirated.
Oh wow! Hello NSA. But it was back then, so they can't punish you for a crime when it wasn't illegal or something. So
it was. I mean, I guess technically I didn't pirate it. It was a friend who had pirated it.
Oh yeah, there you go.
And he gave me the CDs that he used.
The CD-ROM.
Yes.
That's so cute.
Back in the day.
Back in the day when it was a CD-ROM.
Yep. Back in the day when it was a CD-ROM. So I played off of his pirated copy of The Sims.
So what did you think of it? Have you played it since then? Have you played any Sims games really?
Well, Sims 3, which
you mentioned Sims 3.
Sims 3, which I really enjoyed The Sims 3. It wasn't the best at the beginning, but as they added more expansions, it got quite a bit better. And I think the first one was still probably the most impactful. I really got hooked on the first one, and especially once I figured out those cheats.
Yeah, I know there are cheat codes.
cheats.
I didn't use them though because
Yeah, good for
QJ,
you.
my wife, is like, oh, they ruined the game. I'm like, well, kind of, but they also at some points, you know, you don't want to keep going to the bathroom. So
It's not that they ruin the game. It's sort of like Minecraft free create mode, where you have infinite blocks and you can create whatever you want, and you don't have to worry about dying or anything like that. And that's sort of,
it's just relaxing.
yeah, that's sort of what the cheat codes for The Sims do. It just allows you to build
Animal Crossing, right?
It allows you to build your palace however you want, or your mansion, or however you want to look at it. And that's what I really liked about using the cheat code. So I didn't play the first game. I didn't play much of the legitimate way that you're supposed to play, because I really like the cheat codes and just building and making my house look pretty. And it wasn't until The Sims 3 where I actually started to play the more story, career, single player, whatever you want to call it, modes.
Yeah. To give yourself a little challenge, because they are challenging. That I will say
they're very challenging.
That is a hard game, because in order to progress, you have to like keep getting better, but it's hard to find the time to improve your stats when you have to do all these things.
Yeah.
So oftentimes I would just be like, screw it, I'm skipping work today. Can you imagine if in real life you just skipped work one day and you didn't call and you didn't answer the phone when they called you? It's like, you'd totally be fired. They give you like 3 chances. Like, well, you didn't come in today, but, you know, it's okay. So, anyway.
And it's so hard. Yeah. Like, you're starting in this tiny, tiny little shack, pretty much.
With your mom.
And
she's horrible.
Your bathroom is super tiny and your kitchen is super tiny. And your sim it's like impossible to keep your sim happy, because you're in this tiny house with like a bed that has a pee stain on it, and who knows what other stains on it, and somehow the bed still costs you a fortune, and you have to clean your house, but in order to improve your sim, you have to do other things. It's just like, I can't clean my house, so you want to hire a maid, but then you look at the maid price and you're like, that's so expensive, but I have to do it to keep my sim happy and be able to do other things. So
it really hits home, like, as I became an adult. Like, it occurred to me yesterday that like I could very well build the apartment that I live in now, and it would be very accurate. And I gotta be honest with you, I think I'd have trouble keeping my sim happy in this apartment. So I'm glad I'm easier to keep happy in real life than my sim.
Literally in The Sims 3, that is what I did. I built my apartment at the time, which was a very small apartment. It was only a studio, and so my sim had a very small space, and it still like took up all the money that I had to use, and it was very accurate.
Like real life.
Yep, living day to day, and it's like there's never enough time.
It's crazy. It's crazy how much of a real life sim they built. But I'm ready to give it my score. I'm gonna go ahead and give The Sims on PS2 a 4 out of 5. Definitely worth playing if you can get past the more irritating aspects of it, which honestly I probably would have given it like a 4.5 if I had played it in different circumstances. So I'm kind of fluctuating there. I might appreciate it more by the end of this whole thing, but as of right now, it sticks in my mind as a 4, which is still a good score.
Yeah.
So I'd recommend it to anybody. Like this is a game that anybody can play, and enjoy probably.
How did you feel about the graphics after all this time?
They didn't really hold up too well, but I don't remember them. There was nothing about them like stood out as being bad. It was very simple, which is appropriate.
All right.
So you played a Sim game too, but not The Sims. Right?
Did I?
Sid Meier? Isn't that a Sims type franchise?
So that was or Civilization 5 I beat, and then I don't believe I gave a review for it.
I don't think you did either.
Because I had not beaten it yet. And I talked about it, and I talked about how it was sort of like a board game.
Right.
Or like Settlers of Catan, or Axis and Allies, or Risk. Sort of a combination.
I remember all that.
Yeah, an amalgamation of everything. And I really enjoyed it. I've read some reviews that are pretty critical of it and say that there's not... It's pretty simple on how you beat it, and even with all the downloadable content, which I have all the downloadable content, so I think there's like 6 different ways you can earn a victory. And the way I ended up winning the victory was I won through culture, and that pretty much means that everybody adopted the culture that I did, and my culture influenced all the other cultures.
Okay. So what are some of the other ways? What are some of the other ways you can win? Sorry to
Some
interrupt.
other ways are domination. Okay. So you
Makes
capture
sense.
all the other capitals or cities and defeat all the other Sims through war. One of the other ones is, I'm trying to think, economically, I believe you can win it. Or you can win as a world leader. So if the United Nations votes you as a world leader,
That's a boring way.
you can do it. So
domination is good. Culture is good. Oh, you're a world leader. That's boring.
Part of that is like you have to manage your spies. You have to like send your spies as diplomats and then use your spies to vote for you because since they're diplomats, they can vote in like the Congress, and then you
sounds like the real UN.
You have to establish good relations with other countries so that they'll vote for you as a world leader, and you have to become like an ally of all the city-states. There are these, so like you're competing against other civilizations, but then there are also these city-states which they can't expand their civilization as much as you can, and they don't have like leaders that you can trade with or anything. Mm-hmm. But if you protect them and trade with them, and do like some other, they have like missions that they give you, and if you do the missions for them, you can become friends with them, and then you can become allies with them, and when you become allies with them, you can use them as votes during the World Nation meetings.
So we played some pretty complicated games this week, it appears.
It's a very complicated game, and I liked it because, I mean, I always somehow manage to lose when I play Risk or Civilization, or not Civilization, or like Settlers of Catan. I always lose, and I have fun, but I'm just not very good at creating allies when I play with friends.
You're very independent.
Yeah, apparently everybody just hates me.
It's your personality. Very abrasive. I don't even know why I hang out with you.
Me neither. But it sort of made the game, or on the default setting, it makes it easier for you to feel like you're just a complete powerhouse and can roll over anybody. And at some point, I'm hoping to go back to the game and play on the harder difficulty, not like the normal difficulty. The normal difficulty actually like is pretty much a handicap, and the harder difficulties make it so you earn your resources, you build your armies at the same rate as all the other civilizations. So actually, I got everything at a quicker rate compared to the other civilizations on the normal difficulty. And the other difficulties just make it more like a even matchup. So I feel like it'd be interesting to play at those difficulties.
Overall, what did you think?
Overall, for me as that kind of board game fan, it was easily a 5 out of 5.
Nice.
I guess for people who are...
So the problems that were mentioned in the reviews didn't really affect you?
For me personally, no. I think for somebody who's looking for like a really, really big challenge and more diversity, I felt like there was plenty of diversity in the game and how you could win and everything. I guess it could have a little bit more to do, but for me personally, there was already so much to do. And it felt like there was so much depth to the game that I don't really see how they could make it bigger without it becoming too big for me personally. So for me personally, it was definitely a 5 out of 5. And for other people, it might be a little bit lower.
Nice.
But either way, I would say it's a game that is definitely worth trying out if you can get it for sale, or if it,
like I said, you captured my attention with it last week, and I admittedly I did not go and look it up immediately after the show or anything, but it's on my list of games to look at. I have lists of games for everything, and it's on there, so I'll get to it eventually for sure. So one more for me this week. I beat this game yesterday before I started playing The Sims, and the reason I waited was because I wanted to have a longer discussion on this one, but we need to move it along. So yes. we'll see what happens. But so I played Uncharted, and I have been teasing it for the last 2 weeks about my thoughts on this game. I've been teasing it on Facebook. I've been teasing it on Twitter at Spiegelwe. I've been teasing it to you. I've been teasing it to someone else. I've been talking about it to my wife. She's like, "Stop talking about this game," and I'm like, okay. So I finally beat it, and man, what a fantastic last quarter of the game. The rest is just
Yeah,
I'm not
you
gonna
kept
lie,
updating me, and it did not sound like you were very fond of it.
I was not enjoying it at all until the last like 6 chapters. And ultimately, it comes down to this. Uncharted is a game that when it came out was praised endlessly for its beautiful design and its excellent attention to detail, and the fact that it was probably still one of the best looking games of last generation.
Oh, it was
And
gorgeous when it
came
came
out in
out.
2007, and it was just the presentation was top notch. The story was very good. The voice acting was not trite, which is rare, and it felt like a movie at best. But unfortunately, at worst, it felt like one of the worst, like frustrating 3D early PC platformer games you've ever played, because the controls are so fussy. And I kept saying that word fussy because that's exactly what it is. It's like you have to position yourself exactly right, or you're not going to make any jump. You're just going to like fall and die and die and die and die. And the shooting is really bad, and that stayed the same for the whole game, unfortunately. But there were some specific segments of platforming that were just unbearable for me.
See, and I can totally understand that. I remember a lot of times, like I wanted to jump from one ledge to the other, and instead he would just like jump up like a tiny little bit and just stay on the same ledge. It's like, what are you doing? Or I would try to jump up onto a ledge from like a higher ledge from the ground, and instead of like climbing up the ledge, he would just like jump into the wall and like put his feet against the wall and then like hop back down. I'm like, what?
I remember at one point I had him leaning towards a different wall. Like when you'll get to the end of like a pipe, say that you're on, he'll like lean away from it, so like showing you to jump to the other side. And he jumped, and he didn't make it. And I'm like, what, are you kidding me? Like, then why does it give me the option to jump there? It's like, I mean, the game is kind of viewed in an isometric view when you go into those like climbing portions. So it's really hard to see what you're allowed to jump to. So I felt like they just needed to make that easier and to tell where you're going. And hopefully that's a problem they fix in the second game, which I probably will play pretty soon, because ultimately the game was very good. It was just those little problems that kept me from loving it the way that I probably should have.
And I think it's an issue of, have you played any open world games lately where you do any climbing?
Not really.
No.
I mean, I know you really
That's
like Mirror's
surprising.
Edge, so that's probably a good example of that.
Well, I was thinking more Assassin's Creed, or, well, pretty much Assassin's Creed, where you can pretty much climb on any ledge. It's programmed into the game, and it's designed to be very, very fluid, and where you can climb anywhere. And in that sense, the Uncharted games are very linear in their climbing sections.
Yeah, there's not too many places you can go.
And there's very little variety. You just like go down the set path and jump from this ledge to the next ledge. And that sort of hurts it in some ways. It's more used to break up the gameplay. But when it comes down to
I was very
very
satisfied.
simple.
I was very satisfied with like the variety of things I had you do. Like at some points you were on like, you know, your little speedboat. You know, sometimes you were running and shooting. Sometimes you were basically playing Resident Evil 4, which, by the way, that's why I liked that last quarter of the game so much, because when you... Can I spoil it? Is it too... I don't know. Spoilers for the next like 30 seconds.
Oh, man.
I think I can spoil it. Spoiler alert for the next 30 seconds. Skip to like minute 25 or whatever if you don't want to hear it. But basically, you get to this part where you're fighting like these mutant things that are cursed by the treasure, and it felt very Resident Evil 4-ish. Honestly, they're running at you, and you're running around, and you're trying to get in good position to shoot them, and you can only get hit like twice, which is very Resident Evil 4. And it was scary, and it was Resident Evil 4. That's what it was. I
love how you mentioned
Resident
that,
Evil
though.
4.
Because, like I said, a lot of the complaints around the game were like, oh, it's such a great cinematic adventure, and then it completely changes tone, and it's this silly supernatural thing, and a lot of people didn't like that.
I was okay with it. Like
I loved it personally.
It never felt like it was trying to be like the serious, like gritty, you know, thing. It always felt more lighthearted to me, which is why I was okay with that change in direction. Like, it was an adventure, you know? Anything could happen on an adventure. But I think people got so enraptured with the realism of the game that they forgot that they were playing a game, which I guess in some ways is a good thing. Mm-hmm. But I was totally okay with the way the story changed at the end.
Well then.
So, yeah. So anyway.
What would you give it?
I would give Uncharted a 4 out of 5, which I feel is probably not as fair of a score, but I don't give 0.25, which is really what it is. But I'm just going to say it's a 4, and that's fine. And I, it probably won't be my top 50 at the end of the year, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be. It was just a very good experience. I recommend it. It's like $5 at GameStop or whatever.
Yeah, it's a good game, but it's not. The first one is definitely not a classic.
I'm more excited to play Uncharted 2, which everyone just speaks so glowingly about, or they all hate it. So I'm interested to see what direction I go with that. But I'll play it.
It suffers a little bit in terms of the finicky controls.
Oh no!
The cover mechanics are a little better because
they couldn't be much worse. So
yeah, the cover like in the first game is just like, wait, no,
it's
what? No, what?
No, why are you going in that thing? Stop!
You're like trying to lean up against one wall, and instead he like rolls off to the side and like leans up against something.
Don't get closer
separate.
To the grenade. Go that way.
Yeah.
Why are you walking on the grenade?
So they fixed that up a little bit.
Okay.
And then the climbing, some people really hated it because it really points out where to go next. But
I'm okay with it.
For you that might be a good thing.
Like I'm not super offended by like super linear gameplay. It doesn't bother me that much. But anyway, so let's go to your last game. We need to wrap this segment because we've gone like almost half an hour on this. This is amazing.
So I'm just going to go real quick into my next couple games. The first that I'm working on, and I'll talk more about this when I review it, I think next week or the week after, is after Civilization 5, I decided to play another Sid Meier game, and that is Sid Meier's Pirates, the 2003 remake, I think it is. And it came out on the Xbox and the PC. And I'm playing it on the PC. And I don't know if I ever told you this, but one of my big problems with the Wind Waker on the GameCube was that the sailing is so completely inaccurate. You can't tack into the wind. The wind direction, you're fastest with like the wind right behind your boat, which is not how real sailing works at all.
So hold on, for the uninitiated, okay, we need to point out the fact that people don't know that you hate the Wind Waker.
Oh no, this is true.
You hate this game, yes?
I hate it,
but not the Wii U version.
Not the Wii U version. I hate the original Wind Waker, and not because it's cell shaded or anything. It has more to do with the tediousness of the sailing.
Remember when that was a thing? Like, oh, this game's for kids. It looks like crap, and you're a kiddie cartoon. That's like so not where the complaints are anymore. It's hilarious.
Yep, it's funny because I started playing that game, and I don't really want to get into this tangent, but I'll be real quick.
Okay, that's fine.
When I first started playing The Wind Waker, I loved it. I was hooked for like a solid 10 hours. And then after 10 hours, I realized how much copy pasting there was in the overworld. So this is one of the reasons I can't stand like the Assassin's Creed games, because of all the copy pasting of assets that they do. And so I didn't like that about the Wind Waker. I couldn't stand how long it took to sail from one location to the next. It really bothered me that the sailing was inaccurate, because you'd sail past something, you'd be like, oh man, I have to change the wind direction. And I'm like, this shouldn't be an issue, because if I could actually properly tack into the wind, I wouldn't have to change the wind direction at all. So those things really, really got to me, and there are other aspects of it too. But like the
maybe
fact
for
that
a different show, we'll do the differences
Yeah.
between Wind Waker HD and Wind Waker, and then you can really tee off on Wind Waker.
That is a great idea. Maybe when I finish the Wind Waker HD, which I'm about halfway through.
Okay.
So that'd be a good one for my 52 games in 52 weeks, because I could just have to finish like the last 4 or 5 hours, I think.
Right.
So anyway, Sid Meier's Pirates. The wind is a huge part of the sailing. Like, at first I was like, I'm sailing along and I'm going one direction, and then I start trying to go in another direction. I'm like, wait a second, why am I not going anywhere? Because I was so used to like, just Assassin's Creed sailing right now is just really quick, and plenty of other games, it's just you go in a direction and you go like full sails, no problem, no matter what direction the wind is blowing it, which is not how sailing works. And in Sid Meier's Pirates, they went to great lengths to make it very accurate. Like, it depends on what sail type you have, how fast you go, what direction the wind is going in, whether you have clouds above or not, or like if there's stormy clouds nearby you, the winds will be a lot faster. At first, it makes this big ocean, or I guess it's not the ocean, it's the Caribbean Sea. It turns it from this bland, just empty area to this really engaging sailing experience. And that's how I felt like when I first started sailing. I just went in the direction of the wind, and it was like no problem. I went where I wanted to go, and no problem. And then when I tried to go in the other direction, I'm like, wait a second. Like,
so real quick, is it just sailing, or do you like go places, and what do you do when you get there?
Well, since it's in the Caribbean, you have all sorts of little villages, and I think this episode is going to go longer than I expected, but that's okay. Fine.
All right.
There's a bunch of different cities you can go to, and there's the Spanish cities, the French cities, the Dutch cities, and the English cities, and you can choose a faction for your privateer or pirate to be a part of, and you can sort of like change the tides of the war. And so like if the French and the Spanish are at war and they're feuding and you're sinking French ships, if you go into a French settlement, the governors of the French settlements will be like, hey, what are you doing? Like, we're really pissed off at you. But then the Spanish settlements will be like, hey, you're awesome. Come go dancing with my daughter at this ball.
What the heck? Okay.
So there's that, and then there's like the ship battles. When you do fight ships, again, you have to like line up your ship. You can, if you get really close to other ships, you can board them, or you can ram them. You can, or the wind again plays like a huge factor. So like you can set up before a fight so that you sort of pin an enemy against a like island so that they can't go anywhere and you can attack them, or you're upwind for them so they can't run away and you have like more speed and you can catch them. So there's a lot of cool little, it's cool how the wind plays such a huge role in the game. And now that I'm almost done with it, I only have one more quest to do, and I need to kill this. It's a sort of like a tale of vengeance, and I need to kill the guy that I'm trying to avenge my family by killing him. So I only have that to do. But
you're right there with this game. You're almost done.
Yeah, I'm almost done.
Okay.
And I'm really sad, like, now that I've played it, that I didn't play on one of the harder difficulties, because on the basic difficulty, the wind direction is always from east to west. But on the harder difficulties, it's usually from east to west, but sometimes it'll, like, change and go in different directions, and I feel like that's...
the swirling winds of the
I feel
ocean.
Like it would make the ship battles that much more interesting, because you're going to be in mid-battle, and suddenly the wind direction is changing, and it'll completely change the flow of a ship battle. So,
sounds like you're enjoying it, which is good. Obviously, it
was a game that, like, at first I was like, this is gonna be so simple, and the sailing is just like the Wind Waker all over again, and no, it's not, because you're sailing, and it has
sailing.
It has an effect. So you have to pay attention to your surroundings. You have to pay attention to the wind direction, and it makes it a really, really cool, unique experience. So I'm looking forward to giving it my review, but it's worth checking out, I think, and it's really cheap
And you
nowadays.
said it's on Xbox and PC?
Xbox and PC.
That's the original Xbox, people, not Xbox 360.
Yeah, you can get it on Steam like I did, or if you prefer to go DRM free, you can go and get it off of Good Old Games.
Always DRM free.
Mm-hmm.
DRM is the worst. Maybe we could have a conversation about that someday, because that sucks. I hate
we
that.
shall. Oh, yeah. And then the other game I've been playing, forgot, Fallout Shelters.
Oh yeah, I want to hear about this.
For iOS.
Did you say you had considered this beat or no?
I was going to say I considered it beat, but I feel like I need to get a little bit more out of the game. I sort of got bored of it, and so I was going to sort of consider it beat because I was getting bored with it, but then I got sort of sucked back into it somehow.
So real quick, for the uninitiated, Fallout Shelters was that game that they revealed right before Fallout 4 in the Bethesda E3 press conference like a month ago, and a bunch of people immediately went and downloaded it, and everyone got really hooked. And then like a couple days later, everyone was like, well, this is not as fun as we thought. But some people, apparently like you, got drawn back in.
Yep. It sort of has an end in sight, and so I can see how you get bored eventually. Especially if you unlock everything, and there's not like seems like there's a lot of incentive to keep playing, except to collect all the rare items after you unlock all the different rooms that you can build.
Right.
But it's a game where you have to balance how many people you have in your shelter with producing clean water, producing food, producing electricity, and then you can...
So we played a lot of God games this week, didn't we?
It's sort of like a God game, yeah.
I played The Sims, you played Fallout, you played Sid Meier's Civilization, you played Pirates. That's a lot of God games.
Especially The Sims and Civilization and Fallout Shelters.
Yeah.
But I really like Fallout Shelters. It's worth trying and playing for a little bit. You might get sick of it.
I'm sure it is. It's free.
Yeah, it's free. And one of the... I forgot.
But it's only on iPhone, right?
Yes, it's only on iOS right now. It will come out for Android, I think, in August.
Too long.
And yeah, I know.
What am I going to do for that month? Nothing.
I am mostly an Android user. I'm actually using my girlfriend's iPad in order to play it. But one of the great things about it being freemium is it's not something where, oh, you ran out of energy. Would you like to buy more energy or wait 3 hours to do more actions? It's not that kind of freemium game. You don't have to do that. The freemium content is you can find lunch boxes in the game or unlock lunch boxes depending on certain tasks that you're supposed to do. And it's really nice because you can get lunch boxes by yourself, and the lunch boxes always have 4 cards. So they're like booster packs for card games. And one of the 4 cards is always going to be rare or legendary. And one of the cards is always going to have like a person in it to add to your shelter. So it gets progressively harder or takes longer to unlock more lunch boxes as you play. But it's not unreasonable. And even if you did choose to pay money, I guess it's not that much money to spend. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I did hear that the things you have to buy are like pretty reasonable in terms of like not only cost but also function.
Yes.
So as free to play games go, or pay to play games really.
Yeah, it's one of the best pay to or freemium games I've ever played.
Yeah. So yeah, I look forward to your full review of that next week for sure, because I'm definitely interested in that. When that comes out on Android, I'll definitely be picking that up.
All right.
So
anything else for you?
No, that was it for me. I haven't even decided what I'm going to play this week. Probably just going to let Groovy tell me. Groovy.com, Goodreads for games. GROUVEE.com. Give us money, Groovy. Also, you can find me on the Groovecast there every week. So,
which I hope to join at some point.
Yeah, I'd love to have you on, but the problem is it's just like the timing is so difficult because everyone has ridiculous schedules. Although now that I'm only working one job, I might have a little more time. So we'll see what happens.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I love the fact that I'm only working one job now. It's so much more relaxing. I make almost the same amount of money. So anyway, so we went really long on that segment, which is okay because honestly, I didn't want to go super long on our final segment to close the show. Yep. Obviously, we talked about a lot of games that we beat this week, but now I want to talk about games that beat us throughout our lives. That is to say, games that were so hard that we just could not play them anymore because we got either too frustrated or we just couldn't get past the part where it's like, you know what, can't do it anymore.
Yes, not necessarily games that just sucked.
Yeah, not necessarily. But one thing about games that are too hard is that they often do suck in my mind, because it's like if you're going to make a game so hard that only the sheer will and determination of the player to get through a certain part that is either unfair or just overly challenging, I think that's a problem. And I think that while that's part of the charm of old school like NES games, it's also an issue. And I feel like it prevents games like Zelda 2 from being truly great.
I think it's an issue with games that don't properly build upon themselves.
Yeah, I'll agree
where
with
like
that.
there's a trial and issue, and they constantly throw just a little more and a little more and a little more, and it's reasonable.
Right, which is
games
even,
where it's just like things are going okay, and then you hit the first boss, and it just kicks your butt over and over, and you've got no shot. And I mean, one game that comes to mind that I haven't beaten yet, but I was able to get through that first part real quick is the first Metal Gear Rising game. I guess there's only one so far. But that's one game where it's like the beginning of the game is pretty easy, and then you get to the first boss, and it will kick your butt until you figure out how to parry and play the game properly.
I wanted to say that an example of the first type of game that you were talking about, the one that successfully builds on itself while still being difficult, is Donkey Kong Country Returns. That is a masterful game design in which, like, every stage is difficult, but you never feel like you're being cheated by anyone but yourself. So I feel like if you want a difficult game, there's your difficult game, and I never gave up on it. I played all the secret levels and everything.
Yeah, the Donkey Kong Country series in general has been very good about that.
Yeah. So while it is incredibly challenging, it's actually incredibly rewarding. It's a great game design. But we're not talking about those. We're going to talk about games that are not like that. And you said Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, right?
It's a game I haven't beaten yet, but not because it beat me.
Okay, but so what is a game that beat you?
Well, one game that is similar to Metal Gear Rising.
Oh, spoilers.
Yes, is Devil May Cry 3. Devil May Cry 3.
Now which is the sucky one? Is it DMC? Is that the sucky one?
Devil May Cry 2 is by far the worst. I actually liked the Devil May Cry remake or reboot, however you want to say it.
Whichever one it is, I can't remember.
Yeah, I know a lot of the purists will be like, "Oh, how could you like that?" But for me, I played it on PC. It was 60 frames per second. It was really fluid. The combat was easier by virtue of just having more options in combat rather than less options. And like the first Devil May Cry, which I played and I beat, it was one of those games where I almost got beat by that game. And it was the lava spider boss in the first game just frustrated me to no end. And I think part of it was more like the camera and the controls really pissed me off in that fight. But it was something where eventually I was able to tank my way through it somehow. But Devil May Cry 3, the first level is relatively straightforward, not that hard. And then you get to the first boss with Cerberus. And I just got my butt handed to me over and over and over again. And it wouldn't have been so bad if you didn't have to play through a fair chunk of the level before fighting him again, I think.
Right.
Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you just
that's my biggest pet peeve in games. And it's one thing Uncharted did really well is whenever you die, you have to go all the way back. Uncharted was much more forgiving, which is good because I died a lot.
I think DMC3 you had to go back, and I couldn't do it anymore. It was just such a grind, and then to get my butt handed to me by this 2 or 3-headed dog over and over and over again, I gave up, and it's still sitting in my collection unbeaten, and I don't know if I ever will beat it.
Wow. It's a sad, sad story. I've got one myself, actually, that it was supposed to be one of my 52-52. I played it yesterday, right before I played The Sims, and it was Rhythm Heaven. I don't know if you ever played it on DS. We have a big fan of it on the ZVN, Chazzy. He loves that game, and he's like, Spiegel, you got to play Rhythm Heaven if you like music. And I'm like, okay. So I played Rhythm Heaven, and I liked it, and I generally have pretty good rhythm. But there was this one mini game, I couldn't play it. I tried it over and over again. It's called Crop Stomp, and I could not get the timing down or whatever. I don't know if it was the timing. I don't know if it's the controls. I couldn't do the flick. Like I don't know if you ever played it, but there's little. Okay, so there's this motion called the flick where you kind of flick the stylus upward, but you have to immediately take it off the screen after you flick it. And it's just like the timing on that has to be so incredibly specific. And if you don't do it the exact same way every time, you will lose. And the game is so unforgiving with how many beats you're allowed to miss. You can miss like 2 or 3 beats. And you lose. And it's like, well, I played the minigame for over 2 hours. One minigame. And keep in mind, these minigames are not long. They're all less than a minute. So I played it probably over 100 times, and I lost every time. And I'm just like, nope, not going to do it. And the worst part is there's not even a skip option, so I can't even experience the rest of the game. So I'm just going to be forever stuck on that one minigame because the game beat me. And it's so frustrating. And maybe I'll try it again someday, but maybe not.
For some reason, like, I'm think the minigame that comes to my mind is the Subrosian Dance, I believe it is, in Oracle of Seasons.
I love Subrosia, by the way. That's a great little area.
Any other games that beat you, Spiegel?
Well, I was thinking about it. You do one, because I was thinking about mine. You have a list. I just haven't.
I have a nice little list of. Well, it's a small list, but it's a list nonetheless. One that is a game that sort of builds on itself and gets progressively harder, but it gets real hard real quick. Is a little known game for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and this is a gem, actually. This is a little known gem. Little Nemo, the Dream Master, which is based off of an old anime film that did get localized, and it's a cute little film, and they took the game and they made took the movie, made a licensed game out of it, which is not very much like the movie at all. But it has like this cool little mechanic to it where you're pretty much helpless in the game, and you're just this little kid who's like going through his dreams. And
it's not like Daydream and Davy, is it?
No,
better than that.
I don't think so. But you're fighting through your dreams, and your only attack is to oddly throw candy at enemies. And some enemies
don't like candy. Some of them are diabetic.
Some of the enemies that you throw candy at...
Sorry, that was offensive.
...will actually eat the candy, and then after they eat enough candy, you can either like ride those enemies or like sort of become like a bee suit. Mario is sort of like one you can become bee suit Nemo.
This concept like sounds made up. Like this sounds like something that like a little kid made up, and he's like, and in my game you can turn into a monster after you feed it candy.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's crazy.
You said this is based off an old anime, right?
Yes, it's off of
sounds about right.
Anime movie called Little Nemo. And if this is a game that I would actually probably put on everybody's bucket list, just because it's such a unique concept. It's challenging without being super unfair. There is a fair amount of trial and error to it. And you don't really get a weapon until the end, where you get a magic wand.
So wait. So my question to you is, if it's challenging without being unfair, why did it beat you?
Because it was just too challenging.
Oh, okay.
Because it gets very, very hard towards even towards like, I think it's the third level is a fantastic train level with some awesome music. And that level, it starts to get pretty freaking hard, and like every extra life really matters, but it's so hard to get the extra lives. Like once you get to the third level and beyond, those extra lives they're like gold. And yeah, once you get to the final level is so brutally hard with the enemies, and it's worth trying out though. I think I'm gonna put it on our bucket list.
There's no way anyone's going to be able to find this game on NES. But
probably not. I'm actually curious how much a copy of it would go for nowadays.
We'll find out. Let's do a couple more. We're running out of time. But we actually have one. We have an identical game on each of our lists. Dementium the Ward, also for DS.
Yes.
Can we talk about that one a little bit? Because
is that on both of our lists?
Yeah, well, it's on yours, and it's definitely on mine, because I got so frustrated with doing the same. Like, So I have serious problems when I play DS games with my hands cramping up, because the system is very big, it's very heavy, and Dementium is a game that requires you basically to hold the entire system with your one hand
Yep.
while you play the game with the stylus only. And you basically just tap the screen to fire and to shoot and to hit things, and it's so hard to do all that stuff and play it well. And it worked for the first couple of chapters when there just wasn't very much stuff to shoot at. But once there was this one point where you got to this bridge in the third chapter, and these flying, like, decapitated, bloody heads that are, like, screaming start flying at you, and they just killed me every time. I couldn't get past them, and I got to them, like, 6 or 7 times.
I remember that part.
After playing, like, 40 minutes, a 40-minute segment before that. I just kept trying over and over again. I just could not get past it. So I'm just like, screw it, I'm done with this. The game isn't that great anyway. It looks nice, but the controls are just kind of not that good, and I just didn't want to deal with it anymore.
The game actually, it was one of those games that actually sort of spooked me when I played it. Playing it in the dark in bed with headphones on.
Yeah, it's pretty spooky, for sure.
And I got to one of the bosses, and it wasn't really a scary boss. It was just this boss that was incredibly frustrating. And all I can really remember about it is, like, the room was the boss, and the little slug enemies.
Oh yeah, those little things that, like,
that
the
are
screaming.
all over the walls. Yes, they just, like, keep popping out over, like.
You know what I hate about those things is that you can't like aim at them because they're, like, on the ground. So you have to, like, look down, and then by the time you look down, they're, like, on the other side of you, and you can't find them, and then they just kill you.
And just imagine a whole room where, like, they just keep coming and coming and coming from all sorts of different directions. And I think it was one of those situations where it was like the save point was just too far away from the boss, and the boss was too frustrating, and I was just like, you know what? I'm done with this. I can't do it. It keeps beating me. And it was that level of not just being hard, but being tedious. If it was something where I could just do the boss battle over and over again.
Yeah, you'd probably power through it.
Yeah, I could probably power through it and be done with it. But it was just something where, ugh.
Yeah, that game is not bad to the point where it's like, well, I don't want to play it anymore because this game is not good. It's, I don't want to play it anymore because the game keeps beating me and it's too tedious to, like, it's asking me to do the same thing over and over and over again. And it's a very long stretch between save points. Like, it says, for some reason it says saving before you go to every room, but it doesn't save anything. You turn the game off and you start back at the beginning. So I don't understand what it means by saving. Maybe we just never figured that out, but I don't know.
I wish I knew.
So go one more game from you.
One more game from myself?
We got to wrap. Yeah.
All right. You know, I think I have to go with this one. Punch-Out.
Ooh, good one.
Because
that hasn't beaten me yet.
Because it's hard. Beating Punch-Out. If you have beaten Punch-Out, props to you. You are awesome. Because I can't beat Punch-Out. I believe I get to what like Mr. Macho Man or something. I can't remember who it is.
I don't remember.
It's the guy after Soda Popinski. And, like, I can barely beat Soda Popinski, and then the guy after Soda Popinski just kicks my butt. Or is that I think it might be Sandman after Soda Popinski. And I've beaten Sandman, so it's shortly after Sandman. I think it was, like Mr. Macho Man. I think he's the final guy before you fight against Mike Tyson or Mr. Dream.
Mr. Dream.
Yes, if you have it on Virtual Console.
It sounds man, Mike Tyson is so much more awesome than Mr. Dream. Mr. Dream
I don't
sounds
understand
like
how they
Unicorn
could
Fairyland.
I don't understand how they couldn't manage to renew the rights with Mike Tyson, because the guy has to have, like, no money by now.
I don't think it was a rights issue. I think they don't want Mike Tyson in their game because he bit some dude's ear off. Like, it's kind of like a thing that they probably don't want, you know.
Who cares?
Well, they do, I guess. It's Nintendo. Who knows?
Well, I guess it is Nintendo, and they need to be family friendly. But what's family friendly?
Yeah, because boxing is really family friendly,
right?
I mean, Manny Pacquiao was getting hugged a lot by Floyd Mayweather in that one thing, but I finally managed to make that joke and not sound like an idiot. So
good one.
Maybe I did. I don't know.
Good one. All right. Well, anything else from you? There has to be another game from you.
No, real quick though. What was so difficult about Punch-Out for you? Was it the timing?
I'm not very good with rhythm. I have a very good sense of pitch, but when it comes to rhythm, I'm pretty awful.
You'd probably hate Rhythm Heaven then.
I can manage my way through a fair amount of rhythm games, but when it comes to like Guitar Hero on really, really hard difficulties, I'm screwed. Or Dance Dance Revolution on any of the harder difficulties, I have no rhythm. My friends know it. They're like, dude, you have to stop playing because you are throwing me off. I can't play with you. So yeah, when it comes to Punch-Out, I can manage to an extent, but once you get to the later enemies, I like try to time things out, and I can't do it. I'm always like too late, too early, something, and I get my butt handed to me.
So one more, a game that beat me. How about, I didn't really have another one in mind, but I think I'm going to go with, instead of going with a game that beat me, I'm going to go with a game that almost beat me, because it was right there. I was like one try away from quitting, and it was the original Gears of War, and it was actually not even the game, the final boss. I was playing on the easiest difficulty, and it made me feel like I just sucked at games. I could not beat that final boss, and I don't think I will ever be able to beat him again either. Like I said, I beat him on my last try, what was going to be my last try. I'm like, that's it, one more time, that's it. If I can't do it, I can't do it. And I did it, and I was like, I was like confused because I didn't expect to do it, and I probably spent about 3 or 4 hours just on that final boss. Gears of War final boss is insane. If you ever play, I can't even remember his name now, but if you ever played Gears of War and you got to that final boss, you know. The whole rest of the game is like,
well,
you can
I
do
think
it.
I've experienced bad final bosses as well.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
One that almost beat me, I feel like I have to share mine.
Yeah, go ahead.
And this is, I don't know if it fully counts because it was going for the completion of the hardest difficulty of Killzone 2.
Okay.
The boss fight with Radek on the hardest difficulty is ridiculously hard and long, and like you pop out of cover and you can be dead within 2 seconds.
Oh, that was nice.
You might want to edit that part out.
I think I'll keep it in just for the authenticity.
Phone alarm going off, telling us it's time to be done with this episode.
Yeah, it's time to be done. So before we close, I just want to say thank you for listening, all that stuff. Make sure you like the video. If you have friends that like games, share this with them. Also, we want to know, what game beat you, right? That's our question.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want to know.
What game did you play this week? What game did you play and beat?
Yeah, what is your problems that we can diagnose? We might have had some patients this week, but our office was closed. We had too much to talk about.
You bet.
But we will read your comments on the show next week if you are man enough to tell us what game beat you. So
anything else?
No, that's it.
Piddle and Spigel.
Okay, bye everybody. Thanks for listening.